The chill of the San Francisco air still clung to me, even a half hour into my Uber ride. But it wasn't the temperature that made me shiver. It was the memory of Celia. Her smile, her tears, and then that chilling, almost predatory look in her eyes. My name is Sam, and I was 26, living in San Jose. My dating life was a digital carousel of Hinge, Bumble, and Tinder. I was more about the chase and the new connection, rather than the actual relationship. I guess you could call me the non-committal type, although I always put effort into planning memorable dates. Then I met Celia, older, divorced, living in the Castro, and describing herself as adventurous. She was a relationship counselor who helped couples get in touch with their divine nature. A sort of sexologist, I half joked. Our first date was brunch. I arrived at 11:57 a.m., and she was already there. A striking figure in black and white python-printed pants, dark shoulder-length hair, red lipstick, and black cat-eyed glasses. "Are you ready for our adventure?" Celia beamed, her hips doing a shimmy. "Absolutely. Let's do it," I said, a touch too eagerly. We settled into a booth at the front porch, the clatter of silverware and polite chatter filling the small cafe. Our conversation flowed easily, the kind that makes you forget time. When I pressed her on her profession, she leaned forward, her voice low and serious. "A sexologist studies and works with human sexuality, everything from arousal and desire to identity, behavior, and pleasure. Some are researchers or educators, but I work directly with clients to help them have more fulfilling sex lives and relationships." "Fascinating," I replied, a smirk playing on my lips. "Your doctor's visits must get pretty intense?" "Perhaps," she said, her smile widening. "But I practice out of my home. I only have one tenant who lives below me, my ex-husband, so my clients have privacy." "Just as our food and drinks arrived," she added, almost as an afterthought. "I almost didn't message you, you know. You kind of looked like a player." I shifted uncomfortably. "Well, I appreciate the chance." I confessed I wasn't looking for anything serious, except good vibes with someone special. She nodded in agreement. "Yes, energy is everything." Then, a sudden shift. Her expression darkened. I was out at a bar with friends, and there was a man there who was just a jerk. Her voice tightened. I can't even remember what he said anymore, but he was saying disparaging comments to someone else at the bar, and it really rubbed me the wrong way. It ruined my night. Without thinking, I blurted out, "Well, you have to give someone permission to make you upset." Celia stopped eating, her fork hovering mid-air, her eyes suddenly cold, locked onto mine. "No," she said, her voice flat. "Life is fight or flight. There is action and reaction." A knot formed in my stomach. "Yes, you're right," I said, trying to sound cool. I didn't mean anything by it. After brunch, the tension lingered. Celia offered me a lift to the train station. A constellation prize, I thought, for a dud of a date. I followed her to her black luxury two-seater, opening her door like a gentleman. But by the time I rounded the car and climbed into the passenger seat, the mood had curdled. Celia had her head in her hands, her shoulders shaking. "Oh no," I thought. "She's having a nervous breakdown. What's wrong? Why are you crying?" My voice laced with concern. "I just try so hard. I am only human," she choked out. "What do you mean?" "What you said in the restaurant. I can't control my feelings." "Whoa, I never said that," I interjected, trying to sound supportive. "I actually think you're a very strong woman. I just meant you shouldn't let anyone bring you down. You have a bright light." She stopped crying, slowly wiping mascara streaks from her face. You really think that? Of course, I said, hiding my bewilderment. After seeing me like this, you probably never want to see me again. Her voice was small. What? Why would you say that? I had a wonderful time. Well, you're leaving me now, she said, her eyes welling up again. We can do whatever you'd like, my love. What did you have in mind? The words slipped out, an automatic response born of guilt and a desire to smooth things over. She smiled, a quick, unsettling flash. I'm having people over later. Will you come? Sure. The guilt settled heavier in my chest. What was the worst that could happen? We pulled into her driveway, a massive red door at the top of her stoop. Welcome to my home, she announced as we crossed the threshold. Her house was cavernous, powder blue walls, white ceilings, and hardwood floors. An artsy chandelier with exposed bulbs hung in the foyer. Wow, all of this just for you? I asked, taking off my shoes at the door. Well, you're here now. She offered me a drink. I only have the ingredients to make gin and ginger, is that okay? No problem. We clinked glasses, and then, without a word, she took my hand and led me towards her bedroom. Come lay with me, she whispered. I was on autopilot, planning my escape for during her party. I laid on her bed, and she took my drink from me. She rested her head on my chest. I really need to stop doing this, I thought to myself. But the boozy brunch and the gin and ginger had done their work. My eyelids grew heavy. When I woke, the room was dark. I was alone in Celia's bed. The murmur of voices drifted from the front room. The party had started. This is my moment to exit unnoticed, I thought. Then remembered my shoes at the front door. Why must I be so polite? Just as I swung my legs over the side of the bed, the door opened. It was Celia. Hello, sleepyhead. Come join the party. About 10 people sat around her living room, all middle-aged, around Celia's age. They wore layered tops, muted floral patterns, dark-wash denim and leggings. Several sported lightweight, unzipped jackets or cozy shackets, clearly ready for the city's shifting temperatures. Hello, everyone. Let me please introduce to you all, this is Samuel. Feel free to call me Sam for short, I added, trying to sound normal. People chorused, Hello, Samuel. I slowly made my way to the front door, greeting guests as I passed. I bent to slip on my shoes when I heard her. You aren't leaving, are you? I turned to see Celia holding 2 drinks. No, not at all. My feet were just cold. I mentally rolled my eyes at my lame excuse. Well, come in and loosen up, Celia said, placing another gin and ginger beer in my hand. Cheers, me. As I took a sip, she put her hand on mine, tilting my drink up to my mouth. She drank from her own glass, staring into my eyes, their brown depth seeming to read my soul. When we finished, she took my glass. I'll make you another, she said, spinning around, almost galloping as she skipped into the kitchen. Just then, a woman I hadn't seen walked up to me. Hello, Sam. My name is Emily, she said, stretching out her hand, smiling. Celia told us so much about you. How much could she have said after being with her for 8 hours, I thought. My pleasure, I said, forcing a smile. So what do you do? Emily asked. Software engineer. After giving her a brief, uninteresting rundown of a few projects, I excused myself to the bathroom. In the bathroom, I splashed water on my face, staring at my reflection in the mirror. What am I even doing with my life? Just then, a knock on the door. Sam, are you in there? Yes, I responded, reaching for the door just as Celia pushed it open. walking inside and closing the door behind her. She had that same serious, professional look she'd worn when explaining her profession. "Boy, aren't you popular?" she said, amazement in her voice. "What do you mean?" I asked, puzzled. She stood unusually upright, hands on her hips, and slowly stepped forward until she was right under my chin. "Are you trying to embarrass me? Flirting with my friends like that?" "Flirting?" I was astonished. "We were talking about engineering projects. That's hardly flirting." At that moment, she reached up and grabbed my jaw with her right hand. "No, Celia, I don't want a kiss," I thought. But before the words could form in my mouth, she launched a stream of spit onto my face. I felt the warm liquid cascade down my right cheek. I was frozen, literally short-circuited. Before I could react, she shushed me. She took her thumb and began wiping away her saliva from my face, then put her own thumb into her mouth, cleaning off her finger. "Come back to the party." As she left, closing the door behind her, I was left utterly dumbfounded. Now, full disclosure. In any other scenario, I wouldn't have minded what just happened. But Celia had crossed a line of principle. Plus, I had just washed my face. I discreetly opened the bathroom door, looking both ways. Celia was in the living room to the left, in a conversation with guests, her back to me. I slipped out to the right. Surely she has a back door in this cave, I thought. In the kitchen, I saw a door with keys hanging beside the door jamb. Garage, I assumed. I entered, closing the door behind me, plunging into darkness. Using my phone light, I walked down a short flight of stairs. The murmurs of the party felt distant now. The electronic door control was screwed to the wall to my right. I hit the button. As the garage door opened, I heard stirring in the darkness. "Oh my God, she has a guard dog too," I thought. "Celia?" I heard from the darkness. As the garage door continued to rise, it triggered the garage light, revealing what lay within. A bed to the right of the garage. 2 people stirring under the blankets. A shirtless man sat up, staring at me. Blonde hair covered the pillow next to him. A woman must have been hidden under the covers. For a moment, we just stood in silence, staring at each other. I had no more energy to care about any of this. "Sorry, bro, my bad." I hit the garage door opener again and hurried towards the opening as it closed. I stepped over the garage door sensor, out into the San Francisco evening air. I seriously never felt more free in my life. I requested an Uber, setting the pickup location a few blocks away. I stared out the window at the bay as my Uber made its way back to San Jose. I began deleting all my dating apps and just sighed. I have one tenant living below me, my ex-husband, kept swirling in my head. The vibration of my own phone startled me back. "Where did you go?" A sad face emoji adorned Celia's text. "Are you coming back?" I turned my phone off, closed my eyes, and fell asleep.
The neon glow of Mission Street was a comforting blur as I walked, my new San Francisco life unfurling before me like a vibrant mural. Another city, another job, and the familiar rhythm of finding my footing. The consultant life had me bouncing states like a pinball. But the Mission District? It felt like home already. A lively hum of taquerias and funky bars, everything a short stroll away. Monday trivia, Taco Tuesday, Wing Wednesday. I was a creature of habit, always eager to dive into the local scene and forge new connections. That's why, when I spotted the Young Professionals Meetup, food, music, and great conversation online, My ears perked up. Free food? Always worth a shot, even if it meant venturing into the financial district after dark, a part of town usually as lively as a tombstone once the office lights went out. The address led me to a sleek, anonymous building, a stark contrast to the mission's colorful chaos. Inside, the air hummed with forced joviality. I signed in with my usual alias, Will, fake number, junk email. Just a habit, a small shield in a world of strangers. The promised food was cheese and crackers that looked like it had seen better days, some forlorn fruit, and a pile of sad-looking raisin cakes. My stomach yearned for a crispy, crunchy chicken fix. As I snagged a raisin cake, more out of obligation than hunger, I caught snippets of conversation. An older white couple, the hosts, exuded an unsettling blend of warmth and something else. I overheard the female host, Jocelyn, talking to a black woman who mentioned moving to Oakland. "Oakland is a perfect place for you," Jocelyn chirped, her voice a little too bright. Her gaze then drifted to me, a smile stretching across her face as she strode over. "Hello, I'm Jocelyn," her eyes lingering a moment too long. "What's your name?" "Will," I lied, the name feeling like a flimsy disguise. "Welcome, Will." "What part of the city do you live in?" "The Mission District," a hint of pride in my voice. Jocelyn's smile faltered, a flicker of something unreadable crossing her features. "Oh, really?" she mused, then called over to her partner. "Hey, Owen, Will here says he lives in the Mission District." Owen acknowledged me with a curt nod, his gaze holding a peculiar intensity. Now, I'm black, and while I knew the mission was predominantly Hispanic, the way they highlighted it felt off. It was less a question and more a statement, a subtle categorization. Moments later, Jocelyn clapped her hands, her voice ringing out. "Everyone, please find a seat. We're about to begin." She handed out pamphlets, and a wave of confusion washed over me, as everyone else seemed to know exactly what was happening. The readings began, each passage sounding like a twisted self-help seminar. A girl named Amy read about depression, then squirmed as Jocelyn pressed her about feeling frustrated with the people in her life. "Will, would you like to continue?" Jocelyn's voice snapped me back to attention. "Sure," I said, feigning enthusiasm. I barely registered the words I read, a jumble of empowering jargon. But Jocelyn seemed enthralled, practically swaying in her chair. The break was a reprieve. 14 of us in the room, and my eyes immediately darted to the exits, plotting my escape. As I turned, Jocelyn was there, her presence sudden and unnerving. "Will," she purred, "I'm so happy you came. You are such a great reader." My mind reeled. First, the neighborhood comment, and now, my reading comprehension. It was a new level of bewildering. But before I could process it, Jocelyn continued. "I have someone I want you to meet. This is Selena." And then I saw her. Selena. Warm, olive-toned skin that hinted at a life spent under the sun, and long, dark, and slightly wavy hair that fell past her shoulders. Her eyes were a deep brown, framed by thick, dark lashes, full lips, and prominent cheekbones. All my agitation melted away. Where had she come from? I hadn't seen her before, hadn't heard her read. But her presence was striking, a captivating mystery. Suddenly, staying a bit longer seemed like a much better idea. As Jocelyn drifted away, Selena's voice, soft and melodious, broke the silence. "Where do you live in the city?" "The Mission District," I found myself saying, though I'm not sure it's a good fit for me. I wanted to see her reaction. Selena's lips curved into a small smile. "Oh, cool. I've never been, but I've heard good things." "It's a good place for Mexican food," I offered, keeping the conversation light. "Where do you live?" Richmond, she replied. Just moved here a few weeks ago, so I don't know many places. Have you been to this event before? I asked. Yes, she said. I saw it online and came. Interesting, I mused. So, what do you think of this group? Jocelyn has been very nice and helpful, Selena started, a subtle shift in her tone. Actually, there's another event later this evening. Are you free? Before I could answer, Jocelyn's voice cut through the air, summoning us back to finish the indoctrination introduction. After the main event ended, I found myself walking alongside Selena. My initial apprehension had given way to a strange curiosity, like watching a train wreck unfold in slow motion. You know it's bad, but you can't tear your eyes away. So, what do you think? Selena asked, her eyes sparkling in the cool San Francisco evening. Great, I lied, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. I think I'll be back. But you mentioned there's another event? Yes, it's a short distance away. We could walk. As we set off, Selena asked, Do you mind if we take a longer, flatter route? I don't want to walk up a hill in these heels, she said with a charming smile. Our conversation was pleasant, if unremarkable. Selena was vague about our destination, simply repeating, You'll love it. Many beautiful people. Eventually, she turned down a narrow alleyway, the kind that swallowed light whole. We stopped at the back of a nondescript building. No signs, no visible entrance from the street. She knocked, and the door creaked open, revealing a large, bald man who filled the frame. His eyes, devoid of expression, settled on me. Hello, it's me, Selena said to him. New York had taught me about hidden speakeasies, but this was a new breed. We stepped into a dark hallway, thumping bass of club music growing louder with each step. The hallway opened into a vast, black room, throbbing with a pulsating rhythm. A DJ booth pulsed with lights on one end, a bar gleamed on the other, and along the walls, scantily clad women writhed on platforms, a dizzying spectacle. 20 or 30 people moved to the music, a strange, hypnotic dance. Selena led me to a secluded booth. Sit here, and I'll get you something to drink, she said, her voice barely audible over the music. The moment she left, my survival instincts kicked in. No drinks, no isolated bathroom breaks. Stay in the open, stay vigilant. Selena returned, not with drinks, but with a new face beside her. Hello, Will, this is Bianca, Selena announced. Bianca stood even more exotic than Selena, her skin tone a shade lighter, equally dark hair, a bit straighter and thicker. Her eyes were an almond shape, rich and dark brown. Oh, hello, Bianca, I said, trying to sound charming. Selena, you know so many beautiful people. I thought you were getting drinks, but you've returned with something even better. Bianca laughed, a high, tinkling sound. Where do you stay in the city? She asked. The Mission District, I boomed, the phrase now a mocking echo in my mind. Great food, I added. I'll take you on a tour sometime. That sounds nice, Bianca leaned in, her voice dropping conspiratorially. You're so funny. I think we can help each other out. Oh, really? I replied, a knot tightening in my stomach. How is that? Bianca smiled, a predatory glint in her eyes. I'll be right back. Selena and Bianca left again, their whispers and giggles fading into the din. A moment later, they reappeared, not with drinks, but with a platter of the same damn raisin cakes from the earlier event. Oh, I'm full, I said, my voice thin. We were in the back of some forgotten building. A kitchen seemed improbable, and a health inspection impossible. I took a cake, but held it, a prop in this unsettling charade. Bianca held out the platter, her smile unwavering. Do you like sweets? She asked. Eat. Oh, we had some of these earlier, I reiterated. I'm actually stuffed. Bianca's smile faded, a flicker of annoyance crossing her face. Selina watched, her gaze piercing. "My aunt has a bakery," Bianca pressed. "Try some." A cold dread settled in my gut. There was no way I was putting that cake in my mouth. I could sense Selina's patience wearing thin. This was my cue. "You know," I began, my voice as casual as I could make it, "I actually think I should head home. It's later than I realized." "Don't be silly, Will," Selina chided. "You only just arrived." Bianca leaned in, her scent cloying, her voice a low murmur. "Let me help you relax," she whispered, her hand tracing a path up my cheek, her lips brushing the side of my mouth. I froze, every muscle rigid. When I didn't respond, Bianca's body stiffened against mine. "You don't like me?" she asked, her voice deflated, a hint of something sharp beneath the softness. "No. I think you're gorgeous." "Well, I think you're boring," Bianca retorted, her voice soured from her chilling sweetness. Her hand, no longer caressing, shoved against my face. I grabbed her wrist, a jolt of adrenaline shooting through me. The last thing I wanted was a physical altercation in this place, with people I didn't know. I twisted, tossing her hand aside, and retreated, stumbling backward toward the only escape I could see. The bathrooms. I slipped into a stall, the flimsy lock a cold comfort. What in the world am I doing here, I thought, my mind racing. I pulled out my phone, no signal. Frustration gnawed at me. The bathroom door swung open. Then, the click-clack of heels on tile. "Will, are you in there?" Selina's voice, sing-song and chilling, pierced the silence. "Come back to us." "Why did you leave?" "Not right now, please. I'm indisposed," I mocked, my voice wavering. I heard a thud, a frustrated groan. Selina slammed her foot on the ground, then pounded on the stall door with her fist. "He is so boring. Why did you even bring him?" Bianca's voice, shrill and annoyed, followed. Then, the sound of their heels receding. I recounted the club's layout in my head, a frantic mental map. My only option was a direct line to the exit. I swung open the stall door and immediately slammed into a wall of muscle. The bald bouncer, his eyes like chips of granite, stared down at me. "You need to leave," he growled. "Gladly," I chirped, my voice laced with a desperate relief. He gripped me by the scruff of my neck, pulling me forward, unnecessary and humiliating. As he steered me toward the exit, my peripheral vision caught Selina and Bianca. Bianca, a malevolent grin on her face, flung a raisin cake at me. It struck my chin, a final sticky insult, then ricocheted to the floor. I didn't even bother with an Uber. The cool night air of San Francisco was a welcome balm against my flushed skin. Each step away from that place a small victory. The Mission District, with its vibrant chaos, suddenly felt like a distant, beautiful dream. That meetup, lured by the promise of free food, had been a descent into a twisted nightmare. The friendly smiles, the vague promises, the unsettling undercurrents. It all painted a chilling picture I wouldn't soon forget. The city lights blurred around me, no longer comforting, but menacing. I wondered how many others had walked into that meetup, eager to connect, only to find themselves ensnared in its strange, unsettling web. The taste of the raisin cake, a phantom sweetness, lingered on my tongue, a bitter reminder of the evening's unsettling tartness. What exactly had I stumbled into? And more importantly, what would happen to those who weren't as lucky as I was to walk away? The low murmur of conversation and the clinking of coffee cups in the bustling cafe were a familiar buzz, a soundtrack to my slow descent into the abyss of unemployment. San Francisco, a city that once promised golden opportunities, now felt like a gilded cage, each ornate detail mocking my dwindling savings. I was 34, freshly laid off, and my days had blurred into a monotonous cycle. Cafes for job applications, co-working spaces for soul-crushing interviews, and the local bar to numb the sting of rejection. I was a robot, a cog in a machine that had no use for me. "Hey, I'm heading out of town for a few days," my roommate called from the doorway, her duffel bag slung over her shoulder. "Visiting family. Good luck with your interviews this week." I just grunted, my eyes glued to the job board. More rejections, more open tabs I'd never close. The thought of another interview and another polite decline made my stomach clench. I needed a break from the routine, a jolt to shatter the monotony. Instead of my usual cafe pilgrimage, my feet carried me to the familiar dark wood of the neighborhood bar. I slid onto a stool at the far end. The scent of stale beer and disinfectant was a strange comfort. A pint of hazy IPA appeared before me, its frothy head promising temporary oblivion. "Is anyone sitting here?" The voice was new, smooth, cutting through the bar's low murmur. I looked up. She was standing beside me, an unexpected splash of vibrant color in my muted world. Fair skin, short, sharp hair, a fitted leather jacket over a midriff-bearing top, skinny jeans, and chunky black leather moon boots. She radiated an edgy confidence. "You are now," I said, a rare smile tugging at my lips. She grinned, a flash of white teeth. "Thanks. I was walking across the street and saw you through the door. You looked like you were waiting for someone, so I was hoping it was me. I'm Luna." I was caught off guard, a jolt of something akin to excitement stirring in my chest. "Well, I'm happy you stopped by. Where are you from?" "New York," she replied, sliding onto the stool beside me. "Just visiting." "What brings you to San Francisco?" I asked, intrigued. She shrugged, swirling the ice in her water glass. "I don't know. Just felt like I needed a change of scenery and people. I found a woman online who said she'd let me stay at her home for free, in exchange for me letting her paint me. But surprise, she turned out kind of weird, so I told myself I'd try to find a different place for tonight." We chatted for a while longer. The easy flow of conversation was a welcome distraction. "So, what are you about to do?" she finally asked. "Actually, I was just going to head up to my rooftop," I confessed, vaguely gesturing upwards. "Get elevated, clear my mind. Job hunting's a grind, you know? Think you'd like some company?" Her eyes, dark and unreadable, met mine. "Sure," I said, a strange mix of caution and curiosity warring within me. My apartment had a fire escape that led to the roof, a secret access point to the city's vast expanse. Up on the roof, the San Francisco night air was cool, carrying the distant murmur of traffic. We talked for hours. She told me she was from the Midwest, went to New York to model. But things didn't pan out. Blame my hippie parents and their ingrained trust. But a thought sparked in my mind. "You know," I mused, "my roommate's out of town for a few days. She wouldn't mind you crashing on the couch if you wanted." A flicker of something. Relief? Calculation? Crossed her face. "Honestly, that would be great." I texted my roommate. "Hey, unexpected friend in town? Mind if they crash the couch?" A few minutes later, the reply buzzed. "No problem." I set Luna up on the couch and retreated to my bedroom. I drifted into sleep. The combination of the hazy IPA and elevation finally took hold. Then, a noise. Faint at first, a shifting, rustling sound from the living room. My eyes snapped open. "Luna," I thought, probably looking for water. I swung my legs out of bed, the floorboards cold beneath my bare feet. The apartment was a cavern of shadows. "Luna?" I whispered, my voice thick with sleep. Silence. A heavy, oppressive silence that seemed to swallow the city's distant hum. I padded into the living room, my eyes straining in the gloom. The couch was empty, a faint indentation in the cushions the only sign of her presence. "Luna?" I called again, a little louder this time. Nothing. Maybe she went back up to the roof, I reasoned, a strange prickle of unease beginning to spread. I climbed the fire escape, pulling myself onto the gravelly tar. The roof was empty. The city lights twinkled in the distance, a million silent observers. I stood there, looking out at the vast, indifferent night, a chill seeping into my bones that had nothing to do with the temperature. Then it came. A screeching yell, raw and agonizing, erupted from below, from inside my apartment. It sounded like a woman in labor, in the throes of something unbearable. My blood ran cold. I scrambled back down the fire escape, my heart hammering against my ribs. I climbed back into the living room from the fire escape, my breath hitched. Another scream, even more guttural, echoed from within. It sounded like it was coming from my roommate's room. The door to my roommate's room, while previously open, was now closed. I lunged for the door, twisting the knob. Locked. We never used keys for the bedroom doors. They were all lost. Panic clawed at my throat. The screams continued, each one ripping at my composure. My mind raced. I stumbled into the kitchen, my hands blindly searching the knife block. My fingers closed around the cold, heavy handle of a butcher knife. Without thinking, I slid the thin blade into the door jamb, wiggling it until I felt the click of the lock. I burst into the room, knife held aloft, ready to face whatever horror awaited me. The room was empty. The apartment was still, utterly silent. I flipped on every switch, flooding the space with harsh, sterile light, and tore through the apartment, checking every closet, every corner, every potential hiding spot. Empty. The front door was still locked from the inside. It hit me then. The silence after the screams, the empty apartment. I fumbled for my phone, my thumb hovering over the contacts. I hadn't even gotten her phone number. We met at the bar, came back to my apartment together, and we were together until I went to sleep. I had no way to reach her, no trace of her existence beyond the faint lavender scent of her perfume in the air. A few days later, my roommate returned, her voice cheerful, oblivious. "So, how did your friend enjoy the city?" I forced a smile, a hollow ache settling in my chest. "Great," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "They just came in for a day, and they were gone like the wind." I never saw Luna again. I never heard from her. I never filed a police report or anything. There was no crime, no missing person report to file. I checked my debit card for the receipt of charges at the bar, but I only ordered 1 pint of beer. Luna only had water. Part of me doubted if I had even met her. It was as if she had simply vanished, leaving behind only the chilling echoes of a scream and the unsettling mystery of her disappearance.